Hello, Metro Modular, good to see you again.
G'day Ben, how are you going? Very well indeed, it's been a great fair so far. We've been excellent.
Really good. I'm excited to see your stuff again this year, and of course an edition of some For You, some Buchla stuff as well. I mean, in any kind of order you like, kind of run us through what's going on.
Sure. These are sort of something we kept a closely guarded secret until 2 days ago, and what we're doing is we're introducing a bunch of stuff. Some of it's DIY, some of it is really out there stuff that we want to test the waters with. It might not work in Euro, it might actually find its way to Euro, but this is kind of like, we call it the Blueprint series because after all, we named it after all the old Don Buchla blueprints that people have sort of known to recreate his stuff, but also because this is sort of like our more experimental, out there kind of work.
Yeah.
So I'll run you past what the modules are. We start with a power supply, which is, you can DIY, and it's meant to be the first drop-in power supply for a Buchla, so you don't need a bus board at the back. You can connect modules directly to it. It'll be cheap and affordable and very easy to build. This is a reissue of a really rare module from the 1960s, which is a stereo panner that used JFETs for VCAs, a bit like the Gristleizer did. And so it's got a really nice distorted sound, and it sounds fantastic.
That's interesting that that's implemented in the panning circuit.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very, very simple sort of classic 1960s circuit, but it works really lovely, very musical. This is something we're developing. It's sort of a 3D panner, so it's designed for when you have quad, but you have upper and lower speakers as well. So you've got 8 inputs, 8 outputs, and you've got CV inputs for each one to move it in like X, Y, and Z, and to sort of move it in across dimensions.
So is the 8 outs kind of like a dual quad environment? Is that the kind of...
You can use it as a dual quad, and hopefully use it as sort of like a even quad stereo panners as well, independent stereo. Moving along, this one is going to be like a deconstructed frequency shifter on toast kind of thing, where you have independent phase splitters and independent ring mods. You just put 4 patch cables across, and there you've got a frequency shifter, or you can use the parts for other things. So it's really flexible in one panel space. And this is the one we've had a lot of interest in. It's a design I've actually been working on for a long, long time, and finally got it here. What it does is it takes 2 sine waves that are 90 degrees apart, like in quadrature, like the sine wave outputs of an oscillating filter, like the 2-pole and the 4-pole outputs.
Yep.
And it does a digital decode of the phase position, so you generate a staircase waveform, and you also have the 6 bits for the components of that waveform. And what you do, we've called it a Boethian wheel, tribute to Tony Wilson of Factory Records, because it's like a wheel of fortune. And so right now it's using a subsonic self-oscillating filter, and you can see we've got 32 little indicators that show you the relative, the phase distortion of it. Crank it up to audio rate, and this is what you get. As you hear, it's sort of like a bit like a Poly 61 digital sawtooth.
Yeah.
And what you've got is you've also got the various bit outputs, which is sort of like nice dirty square waves, and you can use as audio outputs as well.
They were really nice, kind of like pseudo harmonic series, but getting grittier as it goes.
Exactly, because the way it works is that they actually, any imperfections you get in the low order ones carry through to the higher order ones, so it's like they get more complex. The real fun begins when you actually have 2 input waves that aren't sine waves and aren't running in sync. Here, and this gets really fun. So listen to this. We're just switching it across to add in a second oscillator, and right now, the two oscillators are running pretty similar frequencies, so you're getting interference patterns, but pull them apart and this is what you get. And then if you play with the wave shape of the oscillators, you get then you can mess with it further by basically adding LFOs to give you DC offsets on the input, and you get like this happens. And you can basically create a bit of an unholy mess. Like the square waves really go into chaotic territory. So you're almost getting into sort of like a digital noise territory by the end. So this is basically, it's something we did for Buchla because we thought it'd be experimental, but we've had a really good reaction. So we're sort of hoping to get that into eurorack format, because it's actually, once we get into full production, we'll be able to miniaturize and get it, say, behind maybe a 25 HP panel. So
yeah, great. I love that it will go from, I mean, this isn't a soft sound, but pulsing, nasal kind of sound,
yeah,
noisy square, right through to, like you said, chaotic digital noise generator.
Exactly. And the way it works is you've actually got analog computing circuitry behind it with high-speed digital logic. So it works right through the audio spectrum. It goes subsonic, so you can use it as like a clock multiplier almost. You know, it's really sort of wonky clock multiplier. So we're really excited about it.
Yeah, so further down the line, you say you're going to try and get this into eurorack, but for the actual booklet itself, when will these be available, or what are you aiming for?
We are hoping to have these available in a few months, actually. It's about 95% there. We've just got a little bit of extra circuitry to get working, but the core of it is working fine. So we've actually had a lot of interest this fair from dealers who are interested in carrying them, so we hope to have them in people's hands very soon, Ben.
And what kind of prices for the modules?
The prices are to be determined. For the DIY stuff, we want to have them well documented, but also be affordable to get started. So hopefully, definitely well under $100 for the panel and PCB sets. Okay. For the manufactured modules, for the handmade ones, we're looking at probably it'll be a bit over $500 US. It depends on the final pricing. Yeah. Great.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Ben. Thanks for dropping by.
Yeah. Really nice.
Thanks very much, man.